New York, it is time to welcome our players. From Canada, make some noise for Gabriel Diallo. And from the United States, Tommy Paul.
Gentlemen, so just standard conditions, net device 25 seconds, serve clocks on this court and on the corners, and also on the black boxes there. We have live electronic line calling, so there is no need to challenge, and we also have video review. If you want to video review, just say challenge, use your voice, point at the shots, or you must stop play immediately. Any question? For towels, red color, white color. This is heads, and this is tails. Gabriel? Heads. Tails, receive, have a good one.
Tommy Paul delivered his career best performance at the US Open last year before losing to compatriot Ben Shelton in the round of 16. The American world number 14 aims to match that achievement today and join Taylor Fritz, Francis Tiafoe and Brandon Nakashima, and have 4 American men in the US Open fourth round in back-to-back years. Today, Gabriel Diallo of Canada stands in his way. And the winner of this match will face the one that's currently going on the main stadium court between Jannik Sinner, the world number 1, the current Australian Open champion, and the serving volleying Australian Christopher O'Connell. It's been a fairy tale run for Diallo, who is out to capture the biggest win of his career and become the first qualifier to reach the fourth round of a major this season. Hello and welcome back to day 6 of the US Open. We're on Louis Armstrong Stadium Court at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Centre. And along with Jimmy Arias, my name is Candy Reid. Jimmy, this man has come through qualifying, come through a couple of matches in the main draw, and he's still got something to give, it seems. He's been a revelation.
Well, whenever you're 6'8", you're going to be slightly dangerous for your opponents because you're going to have a big serve, and Diallo does have exactly that. He's got a big serve. He's 22 years old. He's coached by Martin Lorndau, who has told me now for 2 years that it's going to take him a little time, but he's going to get there, and maybe he's getting there right now. This is the tournament where it starts for Diallo because, as you said, he got through qualifying. He's won a couple of matches, and he's winning a lot of times when you have a player that's this stature, they play close matches. They don't move quite well enough to defend well, but they hold serve a lot, and they end up coming down to a couple of points here or there. And if he starts winning those couple of points, he's going to be dangerous. That win against Arthur Fils, an excellent win for him.
He's come through Jamin Munar, who's never an easy Man to beat and Artifice, both of those wins in 4 sets. This is interesting, Jimmy, because he's actually the lowest ranked Canadian to reach the 3rd round at the US Open since his coach Martin Lorendau in 1988. That's symmetry, isn't it? Up the other end of the court, it's the more familiar Tommy Paul, the 27-year-old. Is he about primed to win a major, or at least get to the very closing stages?
The problem is his draw in this particular US Open. He's got the last remaining guy that you think of winning this title before it started, and Jannik Sinner in the next round if he gets through this. But yes, Tommy Paul to me this year has been a top 10 player, the level that he's played at. He got injured in Miami, had to pull out of a match against Martin Daum Jr. that he was winning fairly comfortably when he pulled out with an ankle injury that kept him out for enough time that he hasn't gotten his ranking into the top 10 yet. But when he has played, he has been one of the best players and one of the most exciting players to watch. The way he moves, the shot-making ability that he has. And I'm a little unhappy, not unhappy, but for him, I feel a little sad that Sinner's in the round of 16 because I do think Sinner, at his best, is still better than Tommy.
But Tommy Paul has been the measure of consistency, hasn't he, in 2024. This is his 9th US Open, the 7th in the main draw. As we say hello to our Spanish chair umpire, Nacho Forcadell. And Tommy Paul has won already 37 matches this season. He's beaten Lorenzo Sonego in 4 and was beating Max Purcell when the Australian retired. A couple of titles for Tommy Paul this year. Most recently beating Marcus Giron in the Dallas final. Also got to the final of Delray Beach. He is a man on a mission, coached, of course, by Brad Stein. As the end of the warm-up is called, we are ready to get this 3rd round men's singles match underway. Tommy Paul versus Gabriel Diallo. Well, hello and welcome back. It's day 6 of the US Open. We're on Louis Armstrong Stadium courts here at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Centre for a 3rd round men's singles match between Tommy Paul and the qualifier from Canada, Gabriel Diallo. Tommy Paul, the American, the big favourite. He's aiming to match his achievements of last year when he ranked the round of 16. The 6'8" Canadian stands in his way. Jimmy Arias and Candy Reid in the commentary booth.
Ready.
As the Canadian qualifier gets us started.
Play.
One of the funny things with Tommy Paul matches is his ground strokes, his forehand isn't as big, at least according to Hawkeye on the radar gun, as a lot of the top players. But as you saw, he took it pretty early, disguises it well, and he has added a little extra punch to that forehand wing, and that's what he's going to have to contend with against Diallo. Can he make enough returns?
Can he get his racket on the ball?
He's taking a fairly close to the baseline posture here for first serve, looking to just block it. Like this angle gives you a little idea of what it feels like to face the Diallo serve.
Scary.
30-15.
We can imagine, Jimmy, there's been a fair amount of discussion between Tommy Paul and his coach Brad Stein about how to handle the serve, and I'd imagine that will change depending on, of course, how things go.
Yes, I would be surprised if he can, unless it's successful, standing in as close as he is. If that's not working in a little while, you would expect him to at least give different looks. The one thing about standing in close is the player normally will serve hard and tee when you are standing close. So maybe you miss a few serves because you're going big, whereas opposed if you back way up, most of the time, it's not always, they'll serve it out wide. A little more spin, so a little higher percentage of first serves you would expect to go in.
Tommy Paul camp, there's Coach Stein looking cool in the glasses. It's a cool customer. And you know the coaching situation of Diallo, Jimmy. Martin Lorendau.
There he is on the far right. As you said, was it round of 16? Was that his round here?
Third round.
Yeah.
Lorendau made it to the third round in 1988.
First game.
And his man has held on in this first game. First sets.
Actually, a very good sign for Diallo. If you're a Diallo fan.
Match of the campaign.
That was impressive again from Diallo to me, because look at how quickly he moved. He's 6'8". Good get here. Anticipated beautifully. You think of players that are 6'8", you know that Tommy can move. That's one of his big strengths. But a player that size that also is agile is going to be dangerous. I can see why his coach, Martin Lorendau, has high hopes.
We're seeing it more and more, aren't we? Even, I mean, the guys a little bit shorter, the Medvedevs of this world, the Zverevs, tall and incredibly fast.
Yeah, it's interesting. From 6'6" and down, it seems as though you can move very well. Every inch above 6'6", it seems to be difficult for tennis movement.
Giovanni Pesci Pericard, one of those almost close to 7 foot, and then of course John Isner, now retired. Riley Opelka's just come back to the game after injury. You wouldn't put those as the higher bracket movers, but maybe this guy's going to change the mold.
Well, I do think back 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whenever I was playing, if you were 6'6", you were also incredibly slow in those days. So now that 6'6" moves, you would expect at some point soon you're going to see some guys 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" that are also moving really well. And when that's the case, it's going to be harder and harder to find a Diego Schwartzman-like player that's able to compete with these fellas.
That's how I eat my ice cream too. What about you?
Well, normally I put the spoon in my hand first.
A little less messy.
Yeah.
Why do you think the taller guys are moving better?
I just think it's a combination of the way they train, and everyone just seems to be getting bigger, stronger, faster. The human race in general. So it's just what's seemingly happening.
Diallo under a little bit of pressure, though, in this
15-13.
second service game of his.
There's a look at the serve. Yeah, I actually don't like. I don't think the serve's as big as it could be. It's not as snappy as it could be because the elbow gets a little bit low for my taste. And it tightens up his hand just a little. So 123, 125, he should be able to be in the mid 130s, no problem at his size.
15-14.
It's in a couple of double faults and a chance now for Tommy Paul. Break points.
Diallo was having some, I believe it was knee issues in the qualies, and was very happy that they got 3 days off from when he qualified to when the main draw started.
Got some serious tape, hasn't he, on that left knee of his?
30-14.
That was better. 132 miles an hour, and you can see how it created a much easier shot for him on the very first ball. Paul taking a little, no, he stepped back up. I was thinking he was going to take a deeper position here.
He did close in, didn't he? Still couldn't get a racket on it.
Diallo.
I suppose Jimmy's so match tight. He's playing his 12th match in the last few weeks that even under pressure, he's finding a way to come up with the goods. A sensational backhand up the line, and from 15-40 breakpoint down, Gabriel Diallo survives his second service game, and he's in front 2-1. Paul has had a couple of breakpoint chances, nothing really he could do about either of them that previous game.
Tommy Paul last year, when he made the round of 16, he was playing Ben Shelton, and Ben Shelton hadn't won consecutive matches in a tournament from Australian Open until that US Open. So Paul was a heavy favorite in that match, and it's especially at that time a year ago. Shelton was a player that would hit a couple of great winners and then hit balls out by 20 feet. It feels as though Diallo has a little of that in him. He can hit a winner from anywhere. We've seen a great forehand winner, a backhand down the line, just pure pace, got past even the speed of Paul.
So far, Paul not even threatened behind serve. 2 holds to love.
2 games all, first set.
And given the height of Diallo, Jimmy, it's going to be that way, isn't it, for the Canadian? You'd think throughout his career, where he's going to be winning a lot of service games, the return game a little trickier. And just remember, you You can download the US Open to follow your favourite players, track scores and stats, watch match highlights, get player news. New this year, you can watch live 3D views of all singles matches. It's available on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store.
That is the recipe when you're the size that Diallo is. He's been a bit spotty early on. He's had a couple of double faults. He's given some chances to Paul. Paul has made not a lot of unforced errors. It's only 2, but it feels like when you're in a rally on Diallo's serve in your Tommy Paul, he almost feels pressure. He knows don't make an error is a thought process, and it's not the right one. Go ahead and still play the point the way you normally would, but he's made a couple errors in rally situations on Diallo's serve. He hasn't done it at all on his own. He's held it love twice.
You can understand it, can't you, from Paul's point of view. When he gets into the rally, he feels like he needs to make it count. Jumps all over that second serve.
Paul looking over at his box, and it looks as though they may have told him on this one back up for the return. So he's much further back. The wide serve came like you would expect it to.
He's in Daniil Medvedev return position.
And now he's changing. It looks like he stepped back up a little closer.
Sensational. Something he's really worked on, isn't it, under Coach Brad Stein, coming forward, finishing points at the net.
He's so quick that he can do this. This is a sneak, and he hit a regulation ground stroke from behind the baseline, but recognized his opponent was going to be stretched, so he just sprinted in, and he got that volley right on top of the net. Covered that ground so quickly. It's a lost art, that move.
And it seems such a shame that it's a lost art because it's so effective.
It seems as though it's very effective. The problem is everybody hits the ball so hard, and if the person isn't stretched, you're going to get about 2 steps before the ball is back at your feet. So it's just, you got to make sure you've seen it properly, that the player is having to let go with their second hand.
Didn't seem like the right shot, but somehow Diallo gets away with it.
Yeah, you can get rid of the, it seemed like it was not the right shot. And
it wasn't diplomatic.
And it was not well executed either. And it even looked as though he left, he gave a little fake step to cover the line. So now I get, because it looked like there's just so much room down the line. What are you doing for Paul? Second game in a row from double break point back to deuce.
You just wonder how long Gabriel Diallo can sustain that kind of movement, that kind of pressure.
Yeah, it feels through the first 4 games that Tommy Paul's going to be the guy that figures out how to break through. He's the one knocking on the door virtually every game. Problem with that is if you don't knock it over at some point, it starts to get into your mind a little bit.
Good directional serving, 126 miles an hour, that one.
Of the 5 break points that Paul has had, on 4 of them he stood up close to the baseline, and I don't remember him making a return on any of those 4. The 1 point he had a chance, he stayed back. I don't think I like the positioning. I think he's better off back and try and give himself a little more time to put the ball in play.
Third ace from the Diallo racket. Also has a couple of double faults today. The return must have clipped the back of the line. Just a second main draw, main appearance for Gabriel Diallo. Also qualified for Roland Garros this year.
You know that a player's hitting the ball pretty big because these players hit the ball so hard to begin with when the crowd reacts a bit. And that forehand you heard, ooh. It is much more tiring to be the server than the returner. It takes energy to hit serves, and you do push off and use your left leg quite a bit on serve, and that's the leg that Diallo has taped up. So even if Paul's not breaking serve here, he's making the big fella work for every game.
Both players enjoying that situation. Diallo rather more than Tommy Paul. Ace number 4. Changes things up, the little serve and volley.
Yes. You might want to test the forehand return of Paul on a second serve rather than his two-handed backhand is money on the return. And a lot of the forehand returns, even on second serve, have been a chip. So if you're going to serve and volley, maybe test the forehand chip.
Since you work with players all the time, Jimmy, how much are they registering these things that you've just seen?
Not enough. It's a lost art as well. I think what's happened is because today's players don't have as many obvious weaknesses as back in my day, we were always trying to protect our weakness and find our opponent's weakness.
There's the serve to the forehand. Nice deep shot after that. And the clenched fist, because once again, Gabriel Diallo fights back from a 15-40 start behind his own serve. And he keeps his nose out in front here on Louis Armstrong. It's 3-2 for the Canadian qualifier. Nine straight points behind serve for USA's Tommy Paul.
This is the kind of set sometimes that can be as frustrating as any set you can ever play as a player, in that Paul hasn't had a nervous service point yet.
You say yet.
Well, because you got to expect at some point he might have a game that gets to deuce, but that's the first point he's lost on his serve. And he's had chances in 2 of the 3 service games, very good chances, double break point and then some. And often you'll find yourself, you don't get those breaks, and suddenly you get pressure on your serve for the first time and you falter. And that's the first point he lost, and he throws in a double fault. It's setting itself up to be one of those really frustrating sets for Paul. We'll see if he gets it figured out here. He goes to the towel, which I think is a good play. Reset, get first serve in. You don't have to do too much with it.
First serve percentage so far for Tommy Paul, right at 64. Tommy tennis is what sometimes Brad Stein tells him to play. Remember when he beat Carlos Alcaraz for the first time? That was what he was told to do. What do you think Tommy tennis consists of?
I don't know. I think it's just athletic shot making, variety, coming in, giving different looks. I had the privilege of calling both of Tommy Paul's wins over Carlos Alcaraz in Canada. Those matches were unbelievable. The level and the athleticism from both players was a lot of fun to see.
Not a fun game really for Tommy Paul right now. First time that he's lost a point. Certainly first time he's been taken to deuce. It's been on his own racket. Turned into a beautiful day here at Billie Jean King National Tennis Centre. We had the roof closed for the very first match of the day, a women's singles match won by Jasmine Paolini. Since then the roof has been open. Caught in shade at the moment.
That was a bit strange to me because I don't think it rained, but they closed the roof.
It was drizzling a little bit right after the warm-up, right before the match was about to begin, and they made the decision to close it. Pulled it wide.
Yes.
Not completely convinced that you want to bring a 6'8" man in to the net just because it's an imposing figure that you see when they run up there. It's a couple of times now where Paul has had a look at a forehand pass cross court and he's pulled them both wide.
That's a massive forehand from Gabriel Diallo. Not only has he won points off the Tommy Paul serve, but now he's got to break points.
This was the specter of what I was talking about. As soon as you've had chances, you haven't had any pressure on your own serve, and suddenly a little pressure, and you're playing an opponent who's dangerous. When Diallo gets a look in a little bit of time on either side, forehand or backhand, he can hit it with pace. See how he handles the break point.
There's a second serve, doesn't make Tommy Paul play.
That was a poor effort, because that was just a regulation kick into the backhand. Not particularly high or wide.
To get it up on someone who's 6'8" as well, it's not easy, is it?
Almost in the strike zone for him.
I think he'll be very relieved to come out of this if he wins this next point, Tommy Paul.
This game might actually help him if he gets out of this game, just because he has been under fire for the first time, and he hasn't won an important point in this match yet, Paul, whereas Diallo's won a whole host of them, saving all those 5 break points.
Beautifully done. Serve and volley. Finishes the second volley off very sharply indeed.
First set.
I was expecting quick games in this match. Both players would have a decided edge on serve, but through 6 games, it's taken 30 minutes. The games have been hard fought. Only 2 simple ones were the first 2 holds of serve for Paul.
I wonder, Jimmy, if Tommy Paul is a little surprised by how sprightly Diallo is moving, just given the fact that he had a couple of really lengthy matches in qualifying, matches that lasted well over 2.5 hours, and then of course beating Munar and then Artefis in 4 sets in the main draw.
Well, you certainly seem surprised that he's moving that sprightly. I don't know if Tommy is.
You know, sometimes you get players who come through qualifying and they do look a little bit fatigued.
Well, especially by the third round. They're in the qualifying. They're not accustomed to winning that many matches in a week and playing that many matches, and add to that the fact that it's 3 out of 5 sets, which is something they haven't done very often.
And the other thing is, of course, the media attention, because he's the 3rd ranked Canadian man, but he's the only one left in the draw.
I think man or woman in the draw. And there was Leylah Fernandez lost first round, and Andreescu lost first round.
A couple in the doubles. If you include Aaron Routliffe.
But I don't think that people in Canada were thinking before the tournament started, I hope Gabriel Diallo keeps it going. But he's the hope now.
And with that comes a lot of pressure, doesn't it? A lot more people wanting a piece of your time. A lot of energy can be expended off the court if you let it get away with you. Sure, he's been well advised by his coach, though. So for the third consecutive game, Tommy Paul has at least one break point and the Diallo serve. Wonder who he's supporting.
I hope on this return, Tommy stands further back, but it looks as though he's taking his customary position. He's been beaten T. Flat, hard T. I don't know if you lean that way on this one now that he's shown that he's taking it early.
This is just wide. Tough to thread the needle, as Jimmy said, with the 6'8" Diallo coming forward.
He did take away T, so made the return, and you just prefer to see him at least force the volley rather than try to hit one clean winner. Make him dig up one low volley.
I'm surprised he missed that.
One of the break points he had, that sitter backhand, similar situation, and Diallo guessed right. Diallo was guessing right again. Both times Paul went cross court.
He's clearly done his homework. Been watching video of Tommy Paul just to see the tendencies. Oh. It was a long way down, wasn't it, for Diallo? Paul managed to get enough spin. Do you like that play from him, Canadian?
I don't mind serve and volley. I do think Tommy Paul has one of the best backhand returns in the game, so it's a little harder to do against him. I'd rather see him serve and volley in the deuce court to the forehand. See if you get that chip. And the other thing he's tried to do with almost every second serve is jam Paul to the body, but Paul slides out of the way nicely on those.
So the break points keep on coming. So far, Paul 0 for 6. Great crowd here on Louis Armstrong. Barely a free seat. Second biggest stadium here at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. This time, Tommy Paul makes the pass and gets the break. A big roar goes up. One of the US players, Tommy Paul, sits down with the lead. Finally, the 14th seed in front. He, of course, aiming to join Taylor Fritz, Francis Tiafoe and Brandon Nakashima to become the 4th American man in the US Open 4th round. And if he does it, it'll be back-to-back years that's happened. Different 4, of course, because it was Ben Shelton last year.
Nice play from Diallo. That recognize your ground stroke has done some damage and run in, and he did it well. Also got in pretty close. Yeah, last year's 4 Americans, 3 of them were right next to each other. Paul played Shelton, and Shelton beat Tommy, and then beat Tiafoe in the next round. This time they're a little more spread out in the draw, I believe.
Tiafoe at the bottom will play Alexei Popyrin after Popyrin got the better of the defending champion Novak Djokovic. Jimmy, your thoughts?
On which one of those things? I think.
Well, Djokovic losing firstly. First time, I think that's the earliest in, what, 17, 18 years he's gone out here at the US Open.
It wasn't as shocking as you would think. Tight backhand from Paul. It wasn't as shocking as you think because he'd served so badly in his first couple of matches. He looked out of sorts, Djokovic. And obviously Popyrin's coming in with some, he won Montreal, you know, suddenly he's always had dangerous weapons. As Diallo I did not think he would get to double break point in this game. It felt as though the tide had turned and Paul was going to just roll. So a little credit to Diallo to be in this position.
That was his second break point of the match. Did have one on the Tommy Paul service game last time out after Paul had begun this match, having won 9 straight points behind serve. Break point number 2 in the game, number 3 for the encounter. On his racket.
There is some serious easy power that Diallo produces, and you can see Paul is normally in position to hit shots when you're in a rally situation, and there's been a number of balls where the pace is so great that Paul actually has been pushed a little bit off balance. He's very fortunate that Diallo didn't knock that volley off.
We'll get another chance, though. This is surprising scenes out here on Louis Armstrong. But Gabriel Diallo, I think, has been surprising everyone in this US Open. Get a look at another second serve. And Tommy Paul throws in a second double fault. And we're back on terms. Diallo breaks for the first time today.
4 games all for set.
It's all positive from Coach Martin. Way to bounce back, he says. Currently the world number 143, Diallo. Career high 129, but the live ranking will be better than that. Just 22 years of age, from Montreal in Canada.
Round 15.
There's a couple of shots that have been difficult for Diallo in this match so far. One is if you can keep a ball low enough to his forehand. He's just missed 2 straight off of that exact little slice, short and low. He has so much power, he almost struggles to control it from there. And the other one is if you get him on the move deep into the forehand corner. He has sprayed that ball a couple of times as well. It's interesting because the forehand is also the shot if he has a little bit of time and the ball is at the right height, you're in all sorts of trouble. That's the one right there. A little bit of pace, a little bit of depth to the forehand, and Diallo's that forehand tends to break down off that shot.
What's the reason for that?
I think it's a combination of things. One, he's got the long levers with those arms of his, and the racket gets back maybe a little too far, and he knows he has too much power, so he decelerates. He's got to shorten that up and still let the racket head go to give it the spin and pace that it needs.
So more breakpoint chances here for Tommy Paul. Diallo was broken 5 times in his opening service, or I should say his opening match here in the main draw. Twice against Artifice in round 2. Today once so far.
Well, he's been facing multiple break points in every service game except one so far.
Tough low angle for us to see exactly what happened there.
13-14.
Diallo gets out of another jam.
Well, I think Paul was trying to hit the slice that stays low and skiddy that Diallo's missed a couple times, but it floated just enough that Diallo got the one that he likes.
Tommy Paul breaks for the second time. Another roar goes up. He's had so many chances. And now back in front, and will serve for the first set after a quick break. Now, Tommy Paul back in front, having broken the Gabriel Diallo serve twice. But last time he broke it, he was broken back straight away. So he'll be on high alert here. And another very solid, consistent year, Tommy Paul. Quarter-final in Adelaide, 3rd round at the Australian Open. Champion in Dallas, final in Delray Beach next week, semi-final Indian Wells, semi-final Rome, quarter-final Sertogenbosch. Champion at Queen's, quarter-finalist at Wimbledon, where he lost to Alcaraz, quarter-finals at the Olympics.
And had a little bit of trouble when he got back from the Olympics. So did, I believe, win a bronze medal in doubles.
He did, with Taylor Fritz.
Yeah, at the Olympics. So he was there right to the end. Tried to play Montreal and Cincinnati, didn't play well.
I think we're seeing a bit of a hangover with Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic, of course,
well,
silver and gold.
It seems like it, doesn't it?
Tremendous pass off the backhand wing from Diallo. Now got 2 winners off the forehand, 2 winners off the backhand. And Paul lost 2nd round of Montreal to the informed Brandon Nakashima, who's still, of course, involved here at the US Open. Lost to Flavio Cobolli in Cincinnati, 7-5 in the 3rd. Yes.
Well, I know you're supposed to come in
14.
keeping the ball in front of you down the line like this. But Diallo's backhand, that's the second time we've seen in this game a great backhand pass. He hasn't handled pace to the forehand well at all. Maybe you break the mold on that one and go ahead and go big to the forehand of Diallo. As it is, shockingly again, Diallo has a break chance.
But he went big on the backhand cross court, this time just a little wide.
He handled some shots deep into the forehand corner, Diallo, that time, and he got a shot that he would like to have again. He's hit two beautiful cross-court backhand winners in this game. That was another one that was open for him. Just barely missed it.
Relief for Tommy Paul. Oh dear. He's just not had a good time in that kind of shot today.
Advantage, Diallo.
I don't know if these courts, the ball skids faster than you think, but Casper Ruud yesterday against Jerry Zhang, he had a couple of drop shots where they were looked to be sitting there and he was late on them and missed. And that's exactly what just happened to Paul.
You think Paul would go right down the
Yeah.
heart, wouldn't you, of the court, just to make sure of it? And a miss hit off the forehand side, and would you believe it, but Gabriel Diallo, the Canadian qualifier, for the second time in this opening set, has just broken back right away.
5 games all. First set.
What's going on here, Jimmy?
I don't have an answer for that. I'm somewhat speechless. You see the second serve points won from Diallo on his own serve. His second serve isn't bad. He's winning 29% of those second serve points. So you would think it just means Tommy Paul's winning the rallies. So you'd think he would be at 70% on his second serve. He's not. Paul loses the rallies on his own serve, wins them when they're having a rally on Diallo's serve, and that's basically what we've seen here.
7 games now out of 10 have featured break points.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and many of them have been multiple break points.
Not quite as much of that as you might have thought coming in, especially from where Tommy Paul's standing. He's up, right up almost on the baseline for first serves. You'd think you'd get aced quite often from there if you don't guess right.
Does that so well, doesn't he, off the backhand side, able to just take a little pace off, add a little more rotation.
And also he sticks the left leg in the ground so beautifully. When he flicks it down low, he is immediate. As soon as it hits his racket, he's getting back to the center. And I think Diallo can see that in his eye and knows I can't just push that volley, and I have to make a pretty good volley or he's going to run it down.
Having said that, Tommy Paul has not been successful when he's been moving forward. Looks a little panicked in that shot as well, the 14th seed.
100%. I was thinking the same thing. He's lifting off the ball. That was your opponent's just missed 2 forehand volleys. That's a perfect time to give him another one. You don't have to hit a clean winner pass on that. The thought process should be make him dig out a low volley.
Go for the 2-ball pass instead of
Yes.
off the first strike. That is some lob.
Maybe Tommy Paul's listening to you, because he just dumped that first pass and then came up with a beautiful lob over 6'8". When you're hitting a lob against someone 6'8", it doesn't look like there's any room, so he did that well.
He did well, didn't he, to dig out the return there.
Advantage ball.
Yeah, it's one of the things that impresses you about Tommy Paul. That was 131-mile-an-hour serve, and he's taking it right from the baseline. There's almost no time to make that return, and he does it pretty consistently. Another poor volley from Diallo. He is still raw. You can see a lot of the shots that you got to believe at some point he's going to start cleaning those up, and he'll be very dangerous.
Just winning around 30% of second serve points so far in the match. And that's very well done from Diallo, isn't it? He went to the forehand of Paul on the second serve.
Finally, it felt as though he should have done that a long time ago. And then I also felt as though, Paul, your opponent is missing volleys. He's struggling with volleys. Why throw up a lob on that ball? He has that backhand. We've seen it a number of times where he just dumps it at your feet. That was the perfect time to utilize it again.
Advantage ball.
Diallo served 20 aces in his first round match, 12 in the second. Today he's managed 5, and he could do with a 6th right here. Instead, it's a fantastic return. And Tommy Paul breaks for the 3rd time in the opening set. And once again, he will attempt to try and finish it off. 6-5. And now Tommy Paul, for a 2nd time, attempting to finish it off behind his.
Nobody breaks Tommy Paul 3 straight times. Except maybe
do they?
Gabriel Diallo.
Nobody put baby in a corner until they did.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Long 13.
It's so interesting to see Tommy Paul not recognizing certain things. Number one, when he's come in to the net on the Diallo backhand, he's lost the point.
And he's quite possibly going to lose another service game because of it. He's landing about 62% of first serves. He's winning 2/3 of first service points, Tommy Paul. Under half behind his second serve, though.
if you take away the first two service games where Paul won all 8 of the points played, from that point on, it's been an incredible struggle to hold serve and to even stay even.
And Brad Stein liked the way he put that point together. Oh dear. This comes under the volley far too much, and it is a break. 6 consecutive now in this astonishing opening set. We are going to a tiebreaker.
Tommy is normally such a solid volleyer. He's a little antsy. He's a little nervous throughout. And you would think each time that he got that break of serve, okay, now I can take a breath, gaining control, and he hasn't. Tiebreak's going to decide this.
Diallo.
First tiebreak that Tommy Paul has played at the US Open this year. And a couple of sets that have gone 7-5 or 5-7. It's Diallo who strikes first.
Diallo.
And after all those matches, this is actually the 4th tiebreaker that he's playing in the competition. Beat Royer in the final round of qualifying 7-6, 6-4. There were a couple of tiebreaker sets against Artifice. One Diallo won, one he lost.
Diallo.
Well, early on, he's got a mini break, but breaking serve hasn't been a problem in this match so far.
It's holding serve, which has been the problem. That one's not coming back.
Diallo.
Bob Bryan, U.S. Davis Cup captain, looking on.
Can you tell the difference between Bob and Mike just by seeing them?
I can, because I've spent enough time with both of them that, but I know it's not easy.
It was easier when they were playing. One's a lefty, one's a righty.
No question.
Stacey Alistair in the background. There's a lot of USA eyes on this match. Tommy Paul with the mini break back. That's a wild forehand. Then perhaps going into panic mode, and they'll change ends with Diallo in front, 4-2.
Diallo.
And Diallo has got this tiebreaker on his racket. Man who's won around $500,000 US in his career so far. Going to pick up a nice check no matter how far he goes from now, but he'd like to go further. He'd like the money from the 4th round. And it is substantial.
Well, just as the set where we had plenty of breaks to serve, plenty of mini breaks in the tie break. You know, not a lot of room left for error here from 4-all.
Four points have gone with serve, 4 points against serve. Backhand return of Tommy Paul's comes up trumps once more.
That is a pretty good second serve, 106 miles an hour. It was at the body. Paul is so good. It's so quick at handling that and redirecting that type of pace. It's on his racket again on serve. So far when he's been in this position, he's faltered badly.
And Paul serving at 5-4 up and 6-5, could not get it done. Brilliantly done, not an easy overhead. But Jimmy, the forehand of Tommy Paul looks really quite ravaged at this point.
It is. He's pulling off. He's falling away. He's falling backwards. He's overspinning it. And this entire point, he was overspinning it. And the one thing you don't want to give Diallo is waist to chest high forehands with time. And he had a whole host of them to work with there and eventually worked his way into that overhead. Get the sense Paul needs a good first serve here.
Gets it, but that is a big miss on the forehand side. That wing has just gone away. He's lost confidence. Set point for Gabriel Diallo, the qualifier from Canada, playing his 6th match at this year's US Open. He goes big, and the man from Canada who has just been astonishing the tennis world here in Flushing Meadows, New York, has taken the first set on the 14th seed Tommy Paul. There was a little bit of a murmur around Louis Armstrong, because we might have an upset on the cards. Tommy Paul shaken, but perhaps not stirred.
Well, those forehands looked a lot more confident, but they're a lot easier to pull off early in a set as opposed to when it got tight at the end.
When you are not feeling a shot or you're not confident in something, how do you get out of that problem?
Yeah, if I knew the answer to that, we'd all be, because that is. I mean, generally.
Right, ready to go again.
Yeah.
Don't get the luxury of doing that out here, though. Diallo to serve, love one.
You don't think Diallo will feed him a few if he asks? Just to...
Don't think he's in that kind of mood. It's been a collection of challenges and majors, a few ATP Tour events for Diallo. His career just getting started. Began the year with a semi-final at the Canberra Challenger, and then just pipped at the post at the Australian Open qualifying. Lost in the third round to David Gauff, who's been a bit of a revelation here at the US Open. Delray Beach, he managed to qualify. Lost to Nuno Borges of Portugal in the opening round. That's nicely done from Tommy Paul, because in the first set he was trying to take that ball cross court.
That one was actually a little tougher than any of the drop shots that he had to deal with. This one was a little bit lower than the net. Finally controlled it well.
Ace number 6 for Diallo, hit 5 in the first set. He did qualify at this year's Roland Garros tournament, lost to Kei Nishikori in the opening round in a 5-set thriller, heartbreaker really for Diallo, because he lost the final set 7-5. Didn't manage to get through qualifying at Wimbledon. There's been no problem with the backhand of Tommy Paul today.
No, and he is a different player right now to start this second set. He's not just, he was almost relying on the unforced errors from Diallo in set 1, hoping that he would coax a few out of him. And in this set, he's come out and played far more aggressively already. Paul had only one backhand winner in the first set that lasted an hour and 20 minutes or so, and it went to 7-6. He's already got 3 backhand winners in this second game of set number 2.
You get another breakpoint chance. So for Tommy Paul, 3 of 13 on opportunities to break.
And again, back up for one of these and give yourself a chance to get in the point.
He's not listening to you, Jimmy.
No, he's not. He's fine now. He's going to get a second serve. And if I'm Diallo now, I think I'd go to the forehand with this second serve if I had a choice.
He goes body and gets beaten. Tommy Paul breaks for the 4th time today. And now he's got the break in hand once more.
Shouldn't that relax you? If you're playing a big server who's 6'8", and you're breaking him more than he's holding, there's got to be a point in time when you think, okay, there's no way I'm losing this match. Relax, let your game flow, and start holding serve. Tommy's only held serve 4 times.
If only there was a little switch.
Yeah, 3 of those holds have been at love.
Including the first game of this set. Won his first 9 points, Tommy Paul, of the match behind serve.
And then it all went away.
Very strange. And it threatens to do the same right here.
This game's strangely important. He's had a lead entire first set. Always up a break. He never consolidated one break.
Correct. Yeah, 3 times it happened in the first set. As Jimmy said, Paul was serving 4-3 with the break, 5-4 with the break, 6-5 with the break.
He's got to consolidate this one, and those were, again, better forehands. They were with depth, with a little bit of pace.
He was dominant against Max Purcell in the second round here.
Oh. 15-30.
7-5, 6 love, and then 1 love before the Australian retired in that match. Paul played it safe. Diallo went for broke. Now misses long.
That's where Diallo has a little, in the mid-court, he has a little trouble controlling because he has so much pace. It's such easy power, and he just has trouble finding the court. Often they go a little long. And will Tommy Paul finally consolidate a break of serve?
He can, and he does. So the smile back a little bit, but refocused Tommy Paul. He's reset beautifully after the bitter disappointment of losing the opening set on a tiebreaker. And he's got a comfortable lead in set 2. Tommy Paul trying to move on to the 4th round. Jimmy, your take overall in the US game right now?
Well, happy because of where it had been and where it is now. It looks to be in pretty good hands with some young, nice mix of young players. And you had that one class that really got it all started, which was the Tiafoe, Taylor Fritz, Tommy Paul, Riley Opelka group. That it's often the case, isn't it, where you have some talented young players, same age, beating each other up through the juniors, sort of pushing each other along.
It is a 10-15-year plan in the making, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Maybe longer.
It's just amazing how the game got, you know, at one point it was almost US and Australia were the 2 countries that produced tennis players.
Oh, he's made it.
And the rest of the world not only caught up, but eventually passed both of those 2 countries. So trying to get back to once. I don't think the U.S. will ever be like it once was. I mean, when I was 5 in the world, I was 3 in the U.S.
That's ridiculous.
Ooh, almost.
40-15.
It wasn't that long ago, of course, we were talking about how strong Canadian tennis was, both men's and women's. Of course, the women are the current Billie Jean King Cup holders. The men were the Davis Cup holders, but neither Felix Auger-Aliassime nor Denis Shapovalov playing their best tennis over the last couple of years, say. So maybe this man is the one to take Canadian tennis forward. We shall see. He's certainly got a very big game, and he's up and running in set 2.
The drop-off from Shapovalov and Auger-Aliassime is remarkable because of their age. You wouldn't expect what's happened to both of those players. And I know Auger-Aliassime's ranking is still okay because he made the run in Madrid, but you would have made the finals there because everybody defaulted to him.
Thanks, Jimmy. I'll take it. By the way, you can stay connected to the US Open. Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. That's the one Jimmy likes most. YouTube and WhatsApp. Join the conversation with hashtag US Open. Remember, a commentator added another one in there last year, which was quite amusing. I won't say what it was.
Oh, come on.
You can use your imagination. Just looks like he's settled down a bit more on cruise control.
He is right now. Just wait a moment. If there gets to be another moment of scoreboard pressure, we'll see if he can stay relaxed. Maybe that next inflection point will be if he gets to the position of serving for the set, because he did it very poorly in set number 1. You don't want those thoughts re-entering your mind.
Looking for his 4th love hold of the day. And he gets it. Nice change up off the Tommy Paul backhand. 4-1 he leads, second set.
4 games to 1, second set, first set, Diallo.
Well, we have 4 American men in the US Open 4th round this year. That depends on Tommy Paul here, and he's made a good comeback after losing the first set on a tiebreaker.
It was one of the strangest first sets you'll ever get your eyes on. You're playing a 6'8" man who's known for a big serve, and you break him 3 times in a row. You normally win that set, but somehow Tommy Paul managed to get broken immediately back each time and lose the tiebreak. Has gotten it figured out so far early stages of set 2. He looks much more relaxed than he did throughout most of that first set.
We're just winning the majority, isn't he, of the baseline rallies now. It wasn't the case so much in the first set. How many players, Jimmy, at the top level are using sports psychologists regularly?
I would say almost all. It's become such an important part of the game, and it's always been important, but now the margins are so slim. The players are so good, they hit the ball big, and you just have to be able to perform in that 1 split-second moment when you got the opportunity, when the score is tight. That is what Paul did poorly in set number 1. He didn't come through in any of the important moments. He's still struggling a bit. He's 4 of 14 on break chances. So he's had break chances virtually every game, it seems, that Diallo has served.
credit to Gabriel Diallo, though. He's played an awful lot of tennis recently for the US Open qualifying. He got to the semi-finals of the Carey Challenger, and that was from qualifying too. Played 6 matches there. This is his 6th match of the US Open campaign.
That's probably why he's winning the big points, because he is match tough right now. He is sharpened from all the matches that he's played recently.
It's a lovely feeling, isn't it, when you throw the ball up and you're just playing on instinct. He's put in a very good performance so far, the 22-year-old. But in this set, it's Tommy Paul on the front foot. And in the last 2 years of the majors, Paul has won 20 and only lost 2 matches against players ranked outside the top 50. And both of those losses were to the same man, Miomir Kecmanovic. Also the 22 and 24 Australian Open.
Kecmanovic, not a power player, more of a very solid ground stroker. It's a different type of matchup for Paul. That in the first set was the side from Diallo that gave him trouble. When you gave him a little pace, a little depth into the forehand corner, he had trouble controlling that forehand. A lot of errors off that particular shot.
He's only lost 1 point, Tommy Paul, behind his first serve in this set.
And only 1 behind his second serve as well. So it's been very comfortable holding until you said that and he threw in the double.
I think I'll give you the jinx on that one.
Yeah, I think it's equally weighted.
Second double fault of this set. So quick around the net, isn't he? So explosive. Tommy Paul, 5-2.
Paul leads by 5 games, 2-2, second set. First set, Diallo.
Well, this second set has gone an awful lot quicker than the first, which was 75 minutes. Gabriel Diallo, after 26 minutes, serving to stay in.
Diallo does need to mix up some body serves with his first serve because of how close to the baseline Paul's returning. He's done a pretty good job, Paul, of blocking the forehand return back. I know he missed that last one. And most of his backhand returns, even off a 130-mile-an-hour serve, when he's on the baseline, he's still able to two-hand redirect it and get it back in play.
And that's part of his game, Jimmy, that we've seen can just be cleaned up a little bit more, a bit polish.
He's missed seemingly most of the volleys that he's had on his racket, even when they've been volleys that you would think he would make. They don't look technically that bad. That was a ball that got a little close to his body, but it's not horrible. He's just missing. They're just missing.
14-15.
You speak to the data scientists, which there are a lot now in this sport, and they'll tell you all about the marginal gains and how they're trying to just give their players, say, 5-10 more points a match. And you can see with the Diallo game that that would be quite easy in the long run. Still a lot of time. He's only 22 years of age. Big on the second serve, and it pays off.
Well, we're at the moment I was hoping we would see, because Tommy Paul served for the first set twice, faltered both times. He hasn't had a nervous game on his serve yet in set number 2. He's lost 3 points total in the set. Now serving for it. Can he figure it out and serve out a set in style?
Didn't manage to do it in the opener. He thought about coming in, didn't he? Decided against it. Undercooks the drop shot.
133-mile-an-hour first serve got returned with no problem from Diallo. And this actually is a pressure point now, because he's not served out a set twice, and he's held at love almost every game. Suddenly love 15 feels like an insurmountable deficit.
This game can really mess with your mind, can't it? That's a nice response.
That was a nice combination, not necessarily done on purpose, but he hit a kick serve, the first serve, and it was a let. Toss went way to the left as he kicked it. He went with a fake kick on the second, same toss, and found that down the tee serve.
Slider wide from the deuce. Still only lost 4 points behind his serve in this set. 2 of them have been double faults. Oh, and you would have put your house on Tommy Paul to make that volley.
These are some of the things that kept happening in set 1. It's been a very strange match. He makes this volley every day, all day.
With his eyes closed.
Yeah. Maybe that's what he needs to do next time. Close your eyes when you get here, because he would have made it.
That's what makes you such a good coach, Jimmy. He's just finding his good spots on his serve, though, getting him out of trouble here. Set point. And the crowd want Tommy Paul to know that they're on his side. 14,000 capacity, Louis Armstrong Stadium.
Thank you.
Extraordinary rally, and for the first time today, Tommy Paul does back up the break. And the reaction says it all. We're tied at a set apiece here on Louis Armstrong. We've got 2 more sets to go at least. Diallo has been broken 4 times today. Won 5 matches so far here at the US Open, 3 in qualifying, 2 in the main draw, including a very impressive one over the world number 24, Artifice. Prior to this week, Diallo had a 1-7 win-loss record in the first round of tour-level events and was 0-1 in the majors. That one defeat coming at Roland Garros earlier this year.
That was a bad loss, a bad luck loss at Roland Garros, because he's playing Kei Nishikori, who hadn't played almost any tennis in 2 or 3 years. And it ended up being a 5-setter over 2 days. Had it taken 1 day, he would have won that match. I don't think Kei could have made it through. As another look at Davis Cup captain for the U.S., Bob Bryan, with his family.
It's making sure everyone knows that the Davis Cup is his thing right now.
I mean, he's pointing to the hat. Yeah, he's letting you know. It's coming up soon. Diallo showing maybe some of them first time a little bit of frustration, making another unforced error with that forehand wing of his. It's been dangerous before, and he hits it with pace, but it's been dangerous for him as well sometimes with the unforced errors.
And so Tommy Paul makes a big move here in the 3rd set, first game. Breaks for a 5th time today.
First game, 3rd set.
And once again, he is in control.
127-mile-an-hour serve.
It's Netherlands, Belgium and Brazil. And in Valencia, it's Australia, Czechia, France and Spain.
This is a tough group. If Zverev plays, Germany obviously would be dangerous. Chile has Tabilo, who's been a revelation this year, and
Nicholas Jarry.
That's the name I was trying to come up with. Thank you.
Oh, it's superb. Double down the line, followed by the drop shot.
Yeah, you can see that, at least for the moment and hopefully for the rest of the match, Tommy Paul's relaxed now. And you can see that also with just touch and feel. That was beautifully done. Early in the match, he didn't have the same touch. There were a couple of forehands that he hit. You could see his whole body flinching as he hit them.
Already had 4 love service holds today. Oh, well, it was the right thing to do, just not quite the execution.
13-15.
A better volley this time from Diallo. He hit a couple of shots he has struggled with. First, the approach he kept in play. But Paul had him dead to rights. Saw him covering the open court.
Best major result for Tommy Paul. Semi-final finish at last year's Australian Open. Got to the 4th round here last year. That's what he's trying to match this time around. Interestingly, Tommy Paul won the junior Roland Garros French Open. That's the one slam where he hasn't made at least to the round of 16. He's been in the 3rd round twice. He's comfortable on the clay.
He's
comfortable.
He is,
no
question. He moves well on anything.
Yes. Even on an ice rink.
Yes.
Gabriel Diallo with a break point, and this has come out of nowhere really in this 3rd set. Tommy Paul with the break and a 14-50 lead in this game. It's crept away from him. Tommy Paul making sure of the volley. Crisis averted for now anyway.
That was interesting because he almost served and volleyed. And a couple of times when he's gone into this back, and you can see he was taking a step in and said, nope, I'm going to get back. It might have helped him get that short forehand, because when you see someone or think someone's coming in, you're going to try to drop it short.
A lot of squeaky shoe noises there from Tommy Paul's footwork. So good.
17-shot rally, and again, there's a certain pace. If you can inject enough of that pace into the Diallo forehand, you get an error. But it's not easy to do because he's hitting the ball pretty big, and so you sometimes get the sense Paul can fall back. He's doing a better job handling that pace and then eventually getting to that weakness.
Goes in a double fault. It's his 5th of the match, 1st of this set.
This has been such a strange match to this point. Brad Stein looking on, another long service game. We've had a number of those for both players. Because every time you get the sense that Paul is about to take over, it's just a matter of time. Something happens where he doesn't.
That's a nice serve, handcuffed Diallo.
Advantage Paul.
Oh, it's fast footwork from the 6'8" Canadian.
Yes.
Yeah, got to all of those shots comfortably. This turning into one of those difficult, tough, long games. We had so many of those in set one. And it was often Diallo who would find himself on top of those exchanges.
Advantage Paul.
Of course, Tommy Paul has a massive advantage when it comes to experience. Plus, he's got the home crowd right behind him. And after a difficult game in which he started 40-15 up, faced the break point, he does come through it. Not going to be a sigh of relief.
Third set.
Packed house here inside Armstrong. This used to be the stadium before they built Arthur Ashe. It's almost 20,000 seated back then in this stadium. They've taken a few seats out.
They're not really a bad seat in the house. And of course, Tommy Paul is one of those players, isn't he, where so entertaining to watch. And not much was known, I think, amongst those not really in the tennis scene about Gabriel Diallo until the last couple of weeks. But I think that has since changed.
Very strange wind-up that Tommy Paul has with the wrist dangling. Feels as though it's something that would take a little bit more time to produce, because you know you're not going to keep your wrist in that position. But other than the first set where he was mistiming and jumpy, it hasn't really caused him any issues, and he does a good job when the ball's too quick of not doing that.
Francis Tiafoe forehand is quite unusual as well.
It is. I think people spend a little too much time on technique, and don't think you should be thinking about your backswing that much. Just contact, finishing. I want you to finish. I want you to be balanced.
You want to sort of have that technique, don't you, put in place around 14.
Yeah, that's about when you should be done thinking technique, hopefully.
Well, that is a big blow for the Canadian qualifiers' hopes. He's been broken for a second time in this third set.
3 games to love. Third set. 1 set all.
1 set, 2-6-3, and now a double break up in set 3 against the big serving, big hitting Gabriel Diallo.
Yeah, you're right. Early stages of the second set were actually really important, because Paul had to have been beside himself on the way that first set went and all the opportunities he had that he squandered. It almost impossible, that set, to finish the way that it did. And if Diallo could have worked a little magic right to start the second, it might have been too much emotionally for Paul to handle, but instead he got a quick break and has never looked back.
Tommy Paul just rolling through the gears. Gosh, to a good start at the beginning of set 2, and he's done the same here in set 3. Admirable mindset for Tommy Paul, because he must have been extremely frustrated after losing the opener, after serving for it twice, both at 5-4 and 6-5. Forehand went off the tracks completely, but he's absolutely found it, and everything clicking. The US Open shop.org, the official shop for the 2024 US Open merchandise. You can get your game face on, your game day fit on too, with US Open gear and accessories for the whole family. Visit usopenshop.org. First foot fault we've had today.
And Tommy Paul's probably upset about it, because that return would have probably been a winner. Let it slide.
Oh, he gets the point anyway. Diallo throwing in the double fault. That's number 4 for the match. 7 aces as well.
There's a part of me that feels as though for Diallo, he's better off losing this set 6-love, not wasting any energy. He's had a long tournament already, his 6th match. He's not going to win this set. So that's how I would be thinking if I was him, unless physically he just feels as strong as could be. But it's hard to believe. 6'8", has a little bit of a knee issue. It was bothering him during the qualifying section. He still has that taped up. I think he's not feeling 100%. So I would be keeping these points short for the rest of this set if I was Diallo.
Did see that on the very hot day Wednesday. Artur Rindignesh and Andrei Rublev. Rindignesh took the first 2 sets in that one, then was down heavily in the 3rd set, and he put absolutely no effort into a return game, literally just stuck out his racket and moved to the next side. Didn't actually do him any good in the end because he lost in 5. But I've quickly done the maths, Jimmy. Diallo, before this match, had played 13 hours and 52 minutes compared to Tommy Paul's 4 hours and 17 minutes.
Tommy Paul won a first round and only had to play 2 sets in his second round before Max Purcell called it a day.
It doesn't look like he's struggling physically, Diallo.
No, it doesn't.
Which is a massive credit, isn't it, to the work that he's been doing, obviously, off the court.
It is helpful that it's no longer hot and humid.
Yep.
It's still humid, but not hot at all.
So Diallo keeps on putting in his best effort. And he's got a game on the board in this 3rd set, but it's unlikely to help him. Tommy Paul serving at 4-1 in the third set. And the service game is getting stronger and stronger.
Tommy Paul doesn't get quite enough. I have a lot of respect for his serve because he's not one of the big, tall guys out on tour, but he can serve in the 130-mile-an-hour range. And in the deuce court, at least, he's got some beautiful width. So the wide serve is very wide. He can flatten out down the tee. You've got to cover a lot of ground.
Is that good biomechanics? The fact that he's, what, 6'1", 1m85, and he's still able to pop those serves?
Yes, and just a nice, very loose, relaxed arm. He's not trying to muscle it. A lot of players, when you think about hitting it hard and you tense up, things get actually slower.
Oh, my. You would have been pleased to hit that in your day, wouldn't you?
That was awesome. Great wide serve. I was about to say, look at that great wide serve. He thought he'd get a floater. He didn't, but he stuck his racket out and found a beauty.
Just looks like he's in really good rhythm now. Or maybe not.
No, I think he is. That just was because you said he was in good rhythm. We've had that effect on both these players where we were sure certain things were going to happen and they really haven't.
But it is another service game ticked off. Already has a couple of breaks. The strut is back.
Three of these 6 double faults happening in this set for Diallo. They didn't start until he hit 2 in the 4-love game, so he's just been recent. Just looking through his service numbers, Jimmy. First serve percentage was 68 in the first set, moved up to 71 in the second set, and now below 60% here in set 3. There's only one. Only won 4 points behind his first serve. A little lucky from Tommy Paul.
15-14.
That's bizarre, isn't it? 6'8" player and not able to win his first serve points or his second serve points. I mean, he's won 7 total points on serve in this set. A little bit of bad luck there, and it's brought Paul a couple of set points.
And he takes it on the first of them. Tommy Paul now very much in control of this match. He's playing better, playing on instincts, the forehand holding up nicely, as is the serve. And he's a set away from a place in the fourth round. What do you think has changed?
I think Paul relaxed and flattened out his strokes just a bit. He had a little more pace. Started serving. There's 128 mile an hour. So starts serving a little bit more effectively. I think in the beginning he felt, I just need to make 3 or 4 balls. And Diallo was a little too good for that strategy. But as I told you a minute ago, this first game is somewhat important for Paul to keep that momentum going, and he's played 2 poor points to start, giving Diallo a little bit of hope.
It's the hope that kills. Well, this hasn't happened in quite some time. Gabriel Diallo with break points.
There was that massive lull towards the end of set 3 when both players knew the set's over. Couple of breaks. They have to finish the string and finish the set. And it's Diallo who's come. He's been thinking about the start of the 4th set for about 30 minutes or so.
Well, that is a big move from the Canadian.
Thank you.
It's been hard to tell which way this match is going to go throughout. Twists and turns throughout. Just when it looked like Tommy Paul had gained control, he's been broken. And now Gabriel Diallo has a pep to his step.
Diallo had only won a couple of points on his serve in set number 3, but you knew he's going to come out in this set with some extra energy, and that has been the case. We'll see how long this lasts before Paul can reel him back.
And here's another, of course, credit to the US college system. Diallo, he played for the University of Kentucky. Made the quarterfinals at the 2022 NCAA Singles Championships before he decided to turn pro at the end of that year.
His college coach at Kentucky is here in the player box right now, Cedric Kaufman.
Does help, doesn't it? And I think that's probably the most important thing when players are looking at colleges, to look at the coach first.
Well, there's many. I guess you also, depending on if you're thinking you're going to continue with tennis or...
Yeah, I'm talking definitely for those who want to go pro. Over the facilities and all that stuff, go for the coach first?
Yes, definitely. If you're wanting to go pro, if you're wanting to use tennis as a vehicle for another career, then there's other things to consider.
Well, that is very impressive. It's a little bit of a lesson for Tommy Paul anyway in how to back up a break of serve. Diallo holds still up.
big rush of adrenaline for Diallo to start set 4, and it has worked out nicely for him with this early break. Can he hang on to a break throughout the entire set? If he does, well, suddenly we're going 5. Long way to go still. If you're going to get broken in a set, you pick the first game.
Not showing any panic in the eyes just yet, Tommy Paul.
Well, no, he has broken serve 7 times in the match, so I think he thinks I'm still in there with a chance in set 4.
Diallo does have a couple of big names that he has scalped, Artifice being one of them in the previous rounds. Also got the better of Lorenzo Musetti. That's his biggest win of his career so far. Happened at the 2023 Davis Cup finals. Helped Canada qualify.
Brad Stein, Tommy Paul's coach, has lost the glasses, the sunglasses for now.
Wants a bit of eye contact, probably. Plus, it is a pretty cloudy, overcast day right now. How do you like being in the players' box?
It depends on the player, I would have to say. Some players use you for all their anger, and you have to just sit there and take it.
That can't be easy.
When it is fun is when they're looking at you or to you for some guidance. What do I do? I'm panicking, and you give them an answer that it works. That feels good.
Well, this does not feel good for Tommy Paul. It's been an abrupt turnaround. Just looks so in control, but now the wheels have slightly fallen off for Diallo. Has a chance to break for a second time.
Martin Larendow has left the building. Still got enough players, enough coaches in the box. He's fine, Diallo. Larendow did tell him something right after he called him over, right after the third set ended. Whatever he told him has seemingly worked. Paul suddenly mishitting again, looking a little anxious and disgusted all at one time.
Face says 1,000 words.
Yeah, but this game, he's got to get out of this game to still have a chance, you would think, in set 4.
Please.
Oof. And forehand goes wide. The previous one before that just about made it over, but it is a double break for Gabriel Diallo. 3-love in the fourth set. Are we heading to a decider?
Well, it's by 2 sets to 1.
Marty Lorndau, the coach for Diallo, making a mistake because he should stay gone. He left.
22-year-old from Canada has found another level, a bit more energy. And he's got a double break lead in this fourth set against the 14th seed Tommy Paul. Going for the biggest win of his career today, Gabriel Diallo. Currently 103 in the PIF ATP World Rankings. That's the live rankings. Should he win today, he'll move inside the world's top 100 for the first time at number 85.
It's a big number to get to because you're in the majors. If he can get to that 85, 103 are right on the cutoff.
Bodes well for Australia.
Yes, and
although maybe he likes qualifying.
Well, he might, but you gotta like the 100 grand just to be in the tournament that you get by being in the main draw.
And that's another thing, isn't it? 325,000 for the winner of this match. Diallo up to this point has won around 500,000 in his entire career.
Hopefully he's unaware of all of those numbers in some ways. If you're thinking about the number, you're going to tighten right up. He hasn't played nervously, no. Diallo, at all. In fact, of the two, it's Paul who has emotions have gone up and down throughout.
Tommy Paul certainly has more to lose today.
Yeah, that's an interesting conundrum in some ways when you become a veteran that's been out here, won a lot of matches, verge of top 10, and you're supposed to win. Some players don't handle that as well as others. I think Paul's handled it pretty well, but today he's looked antsy at times. Diallo continues trying to go body second serve. He's winning 32% of his second serve points. I think he needs to mix that second serve up. You've got to go to the forehand a few more times than he has.
See if he does it here.
Or even wide, but he's always going right at the body, and Paul handles that with no problem.
About to go into his 17th hour of tennis at this year's US Open. Oh, that had to be good, and it was.
That was unbelievable. Right from the start, it was a great serve. Went behind him. Paul had to slam on the brakes, but he chipped that forehand beautifully. Now there's almost no room to get it over Diallo's racket and in. Threaded that needle perfectly.
Paul breaks back. It is only one break. He's got 2 to make up, but that's a start.
Diallo leads by 3 games to 1.
And this is where the crowd could help Tommy Paul. That was a nice roar that he got with that break of serve, with some brilliant tennis that he displayed to get the break. See if he can take that momentum with him.
You can join us in celebrating the USTA Foundation's 30 years of impact. The foundation brings tennis and educational opportunities to youth from underserved communities. And helps get young people ready for whatever life serves at them. Let's keep serving up dreams. USTA-foundation.com.
Brad Stein next to him, Hugo Armando, former right around top 100 player.
What role does Hugo serve?
Well, he still does hit the ball awfully well, so. But I have seen Tommy hitting with other players as well this week, so just another voice.
And Brad Stein, one of the best, Jimmy, perhaps you'll agree with me, at just sitting down and having a chat about tactics, other players. He's a real student of the game. No question. Been around it for a long time. Has worked with #1s, I think, maybe starting with Jim Courier. That's where he really became well known. Easy hole for Tommy Paul. He's got a little bit of momentum now from a 3-love start. He's giving Gabriel Diallo all he can handle. Still down a break though. Diallo leads 3-2 in this 4th set.
3 games to 2 for set. Paul leads by 2 sets to 1.
This is going to be a massive game. Gabriel Diallo has the advantage of serving with the new balls, but Tommy Paul has a little momentum now.
This has been such a difficult match, such a strange match, because, again, Diallo's 6'8". He's supposed to be a big server that you struggle to break serve. So you have to be very careful. Hold your serve. It's going to have few chances. It's been broken 8 times in this match. In 3.5 sets. So got up 2 breaks in the 4th, and you thought, oh, set's over for Diallo. It's not over. Tommy Paul has been able to break serve, and he's got the crowd ready to erupt. Both players know it.
Tommy Paul broke 11 times in his opening 2 matches. So that's 19 breaks of serve for the Americans so far in this US Open.
13-15.
Nothing you can do about that.
No, and that's what Diallo needs to do more of. He needs to just step to the line and bring the heat down the tee. Force Paul perhaps not to play where he's playing from. He's standing up close to the baseline, blocking the ball and back in play. Problem is, when you're banging your serve and missing, he's not winning second serve points. He's got to find a second serve that's more effective than he's had so far. This is where I get frustrated watching almost every second serve is right what you just saw. It's 107 mile-an-hour second serve. That's a big second serve, but it's in the same spot every time. Backhand body. And Tommy Paul hasn't missed one of those almost today.
Would you rather Diallo then went for a little more, perhaps mixed in, and had to accept a few more double faults?
Anything than what he's doing.
See what the Canadian does with this second serve.
He needs to go into the forehand. He did, but even that serve into the forehand, little bunt that Paul, he makes that return every time, and he's winning the rallies. I'm getting ready to tell you, just go two big 134 mile-an-hour serves and hope for the best.
Maxime Cressy style.
Yeah.
Break point for Tommy Paul. This is his 19th break point opportunity of the match. He's converted 8 times. For once, he doesn't quite get his feet up to the ball. It's really efficient. Diallo serving against Artifice, held serve 20 times, broken just twice against the Frenchman. You can't help but be impressed by this young man's coolness under pressure.
2 frustrating points in a row for Paul, however. He's in both points, both rallies, and just missed rally ball backhands that you don't see him miss very often.
Well, that's a surprising point for Tommy Paul to lose. It looks so good after the return of serve, but Diallo somehow holds on. That was a very important game for him to win, 4-2. So 22-year-old getting closer to forcing the deciding 5th set against the 14th seed Tommy Paul. He's got the right idea.
Not just one honeydeuce, but 2.
Don't know if you've seen that clip that went viral about the gentleman bringing down 2 the other day. And then what appeared to be either a wife or girlfriend accepted a honeydew from somebody else. And that ball had a lot of kick on it. Diallo able to fire back a return. Paul keeps himself in the conversation, 4-3.
By 2 sets to 1.
Gabriel Diallo serving at 4-3 in the fourth set against Tommy Paul, trying to force a deciding fifth.
Long 15.
2 hours and 56 minutes on the match clock of this one so far.
Problem for Diallo on his serve points, he just threw in 112 mile an hour first serve. He's not going to get away with that. He's losing the rallies, partly on the strength of the 64 unforced errors we just showed you. 65. That was a good serve right in the body in 127. That is where Tommy Paul's one of the best I've ever seen, I think, at fighting those off. That was closer to hitting him, and it just happened to also be low. Normally when you get a serve like that, it sits up the return.
But like Jordan Thompson, the Australian, he's very good against big servers, isn't he?
He is amazing against big servers.
Knocked out Hubie Hurkacz. That's a poor error from Diallo. That's where he has given up a lot of freebies. Tommy Paul now has 3 chances to level this up after being down 3-love double break.
Thank you.
Paul backing way up right now for this return.
And Tommy Paul does break. A break to love, no less. And this set's still very much in the balance now he's done that. Come back from double break deficit.
4 games all, fourth set.
All right, so Jimmy Arias, what do you think at this point?
Well, hard to see how Paul doesn't find a way through at this point, but nothing in this match has worked out the way I normally feel and see things.
Crystal ball hasn't quite been
No,
working.
it's not. It's extra strange because of how easily Paul holds serve when he does hold serve. Seems as though those holds take a minute and a half. He holds it love, and then there's a sudden moment where he'll give away a few points.
Look at that, the momentum all with Tommy Paul. 11 points now in a row. Didn't let his head drop after going down love 3.
That's it.
And that is quite a statement. Another hold to love for Tommy Paul. And this is a big comeback.
By 5 games.
He's 1 game away from moving in to the 4th round
one.
for the 2nd straight year. But this match would go to a deciding 5th set. Now, Gabriel Diallo is serving to stay in the encounter.
Bad news for Tommy Paul is now it looks equally as certain that he's going to win it in 4 with coming back from 2 breaks down. And since nothing goes according to the way it looks, it's a good sign for Diallo.
Never since coming through that big 6th game to take a 4-2 lead, Diallo had lost before that last point, 12 points in a row. Just misses. This is another impressive response from the 22-year-old.
Don't know if he needed a winner there, Paul. Could have moved that in by about a foot and it would have been good enough.
Just saw the tablet that the coaches can use in front of Martin Laurando, who looks a little bit like Willem Dafoe. If anyone else sees that.
Yeah, good call.
Well, he had to hold, and he certainly did. Loses just 1 point. His US Open not over yet. What's impressed you the most about Diallo?
Just his demeanor. The mental side of the game. He seems to be mostly positive. There's a lot of moments where he could have become angry and get down a little bit on himself, and he hasn't. His backhand pass cross court is also pretty good. We've seen a number of those. None of them any better than that one. This was Tommy Paul back at you. That's what Paul has done a couple of times to Diallo with the chip forehand return.
Well, that is world-class tennis.
That was awesome. Stayed alive on the return. And then Paul served up the one shot that Diallo's the most dangerous with, that ball into the middle, but with a little bit of height into his forehand, and Diallo took full advantage. Love 30. Paul either holds serve at love or seems to get broken, so.
Oh, this time, no cross-court pass from Diallo.
15-30.
Still pretty good pass. About as good as you can hope for from there. He guessed right, got the ball down low with pace. It just didn't have enough spin to dip and make for a tougher volley. This will be a massive game if Paul gets out of this from love 30 down.
Former US player Brian Verhaley watching Tommy Paul. There's a host of big names out there interested in this match. Many of them interested in Tommy Paul's opponent.
Almost an exclusive serving to the forehand of Diallo in this game. Diallo's bunted all those returns back in play. He's won 3 of the 5 points, and he's got himself a break chance.
Thank you.
He has broken the Tommy Paul serve 5 times today.
Will Paul go to the forehand again? That's what he's served.
Nicely done.
The answer is no. He went with kicker to the backhand, and
Yes.
he does have a very nice kick. As you can see how far out he pulled his opponent, and that's where Diallo's not as supple as some people. That approach really wasn't good enough to get the volley that he got. He should have had to have at least been digging that up from low.
Injection of pace. Paul is down. And Diallo with his 30th winner of the match.
Advantage, Diallo.
Diallo's so dangerous. He can miss shots, but it seems as though when he gets his teeth into a point or two and he suddenly gets... There's not many people that can hit the ball from behind the baseline past Tommy Paul.
Thank you.
That shot reminds me of the one that Novak Djokovic came up with in the gold medal match at the recent Paris Olympics against Carlos Alcaraz.
Thank you.
It's a nice comparison. Oh, well, I wonder if he should have gone cross-court again.
I think he would have gotten Paul had he made that, because Paul was covering. He was trying to get to the cross court in a hurry.
Two break points saved.
5-minute game, and such an important one. Feels like the outcome of this match might hinge on this game in some ways, at least for Diallo.
Advantage,
He's put a lot
Paul.
into trying to get this break of serve. He's had a couple of chances.
Thank you.
It's long, and we'll go back to Juice.
Yes.
Tommy Paul defeated Travaglia, Safulin from 2 sets down, and then Alejandro Davidovich Fokina last year. Lost to Ben Shelton in 4 sets in the round of 16. So he's got points to defend, and that's a poor miss from the Paul forehand.
Advantage, Diallo.
And it's not easy being on the sidelines, not being able to help. So a 15th break point of the match for Diallo. 3rd of this game. Tension is palpable. He went big and he missed.
Yes.
Don't hate the idea. It was there. Maybe didn't have to hit it 150 miles an hour. It could have been 120 or so, and you probably would have still had the same effect.
Got a fun fact about Gabriel Diallo. Felix Auger-Aliassime's dad, Sam, was a coach of his when he was younger.
That's always interesting. You think he was holding a few things back just to make sure his son stayed ahead?
That is quite a hold for Tommy Paul from love 30. He holds off 3 break points from Gabriel Diallo and sits down back in front at 6-5 here in the 4th set. For the second time, Gabriel Diallo serving to stay in the match against the USA's Tommy Paul. Well, it's a nice time to throw in a serve and volley. He's now been on court for well over 17 hours through 6 matches here at the US Open. 3 in qualifying, 3 in the main draw. Legs have to be a little bit tired at this point.
One of the few times Paul again backed up on return. I thought we would see some different positions throughout. It's been 99% of the time returning from pretty close to the baseline. And he's obviously, it's worked for him with the 9 breaks a serve that he's managed to pull off. Diallo could get a little bit more because he gets so many blocked returns that he could work with, and he hits them with pace, but they're a little bit straight through the court. And Paul's quick enough that he's going to run those down. If he can get a few more like that, opening the court, creating a little bit more space, that might be the next phase of the game for him.
You wonder if time, if he can improve his volleys, that he might be more of a serve and volleyer. It's been just over 50% won, hasn't it, from the net?
And should have been better because he had very nice volleys to look at that he's bungled.
Certainly a lot of upsides, regardless of what happens today. Paul goes for break on the forehand return, a big miss, so we are going for another tiebreaker, the second of this match.
6 games on, 4th set, tiebreak.
Little different feel going into this one than in set 1, simply because in set 1, Tommy Paul felt as though, how in the world am I playing a tiebreaker right now? I've had a break lead 3 separate times in this set. I served for it twice. This set, it's Diallo who did have a 3-love double break lead. So a little different feel coming in. We'll see if the result is the same.
Strange tiebreaker, the first one. Diallo dominated 3-1. It was nip and tuck, lots of mini breaks involved before the Canadian eventually won it 7 points to 5.
Yeah, Paul fought back from being down a couple mini breaks to serving at 5-4 in that tie break, lost both of those.
Zero. 4.
After beating Fees, he said, obviously super happy, especially the way I've been playing throughout the summer, been able to put up some good matches, continuously bring a very good level.
And I do enjoy that angle, camera angle, because you get a really good sense of how fast the ball is going. And Diallo's forehand has a lot of pace. Paul did all he could to at least force one extra shot out of Diallo, but he handled it beautifully.
First mini break goes to Tommy Paul.
1. Paul.
It's almost done. Diallo has played with the house's money, because in the second round of qualifying, he was down 6-3, 5-3, saved 2 match points. Said to himself, everything from now on is a bonus.
3-1. 4.
Tommy Paul back on the front foot.
Tommy talking to his box there non-stop the last couple of points, partly because this match he hasn't played well from ahead. He's ahead right now. If he can just hold on to his serve a few more points or steal another return point here, you gotta like his chances.
Kamikaze run to the net. Tommy Paul apologises. A couple of net courts in that rally. Right now, he's been pushed all the way.
Thank you.
But the end is in sight. And it has not been a good fourth set tiebreaker for the man who won the first. Tommy Paul has 5 match points.
Thank you. Paul.
This seems like an insurmountable lead, obviously. But if he loses this point and Diallo hits 2 big serves, all of a sudden there's only 1 match point left. So this point becomes slightly more important than you might think.
Match point number 2. Ouch.
He has not played well with the lead, Tommy Paul. That was a nervous second serve when you have 4 match points left.
Thank you.
Three match points remain. 2 of them will be on the Diallo serve. Tommy Paul is moving on to the 4th round for the 2nd straight year. Gets the better of Gabriel Diallo in their first ever meeting. And it was a terrific meeting here on Louis Armstrong. It looked like we'd be going certainly to the 5th set after a double break lead for Diallo in the 4th, but it was not to be. Tommy Paul put his head down, worked even harder, and he will be mightily relieved to come out through this very tricky match, 7-6 in the 4th set.
Not one thing that I expected to happen throughout that match was happening the way you would think it. And in the end, you could see the look on Tommy Paul's face when he finally got the victory. It wasn't elation. It was almost consternation, or almost what just transpired. And in the end, all that matters is he's putting his rackets away. He's going to play against Jannik Sinner in the next round. He is into the round of 16 for the 2nd year in a row. It was the type of match I don't think you're going to come away with a lot of confidence. He lost serve 5 times. He's not going to get away with that against Sinner. And there's quite a difference between the Diallo return of serve and Jannik Sinner's return of serve. So there's a lot of things to be worried about if you're Tommy Paul from that match. Having said that, he got through it, and that's the most important thing. Live for another day, and it'll be a completely different feel. He won't be the favorite against Sinner. He'll be chasing, and he's played very well when he doesn't have that type of pressure. Diallo, great week. Incredible 2 weeks, really, for him. He's been here for a couple of weeks. He's gotten himself right on the edge of the top 100. He's almost in the game.
And that is a nice salute to the 22-year-old who saved match points in qualifying. Was playing with the house's money, but it's Tommy Paul who's moving on to the 4th round.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Tommy. What an incredible match. How much did you rely on your experience today, particularly after losing that 1st set?
Pretty much everything. I feel like I returned really well, but he was all over my serve, it felt like, and obviously it was a pretty roller coaster 1st set and a roller coaster 4th set, so I'm happy to get through that one.
Yeah, well, take me through that, because there was a lot of breaks of serve in this match. We're not used to seeing that in men's tennis, but why do you think that was happening today?
I don't know. I definitely wasn't expecting it. I know that he has a great serve and very hard to break, and I tried to change things up, give him different looks, and I ended up returning really well, but he returned a lot better than I thought he was going to. So, yeah, like you said, it was super tricky and way more breaks than I think both of us would have liked.
We've seen some incredible upsets in this tournament. You think about Alcaraz, Djokovic going out. How much impotence does it give players like yourself to think, why not me?
Yeah, I mean, you see it happening, but I mean, I knew I had a tough match today, so I was really just worried about that. And now on to the next one. I'm not sure how that match went, but if Sinner won, that's definitely not an easy match.
Well, guess what? That was my next question for you. Now you play Jannik Sinner. So, speaking of the upsets, what do we expect from this match? With you playing Jannik, you know him so well. What are we going to expect for?
Hopefully some really good tennis. I'm really excited to play that match. Hopefully you guys can come out and we can produce something great out there. So I'm excited.
Well, Tommy, you are as cool as a cucumber even today, my friend. Congratulations, through to the next round.
Tommy Paul, speaking to Renee Stubbs, said he returned well. It was a roller coaster first and fourth set. One tiebreaker he won, one tiebreaker he lost. But it's the one he won that sends him through to play Jannik Sinner. We'll speak about that momentarily, Jimmy Arias, but you're a little worried for Tommy Paul moving on.
Well, obviously, he knows he's in for a tough match, but I have seen him beat Carlos Alcaraz twice. I know his top level, because he's so athletic, is incredible. And I like what he was saying going into that match. He's looking forward to it because he wants to put on a great show. And I think if he goes in with that attitude, he will put on a great show. And it'll be the kind of tennis that's at times a bit jaw-dropping. You can't believe the gets and the shot making that these top players have.
So exciting, Tommy Paul, isn't he? Always an entertainer, regardless of what's happening. 40 winners today, 50 unforced errors. Did return very well, but there'll be work to be done on the practice court. There's his team, including his girlfriend and coach, as he gets the better of Gabriel Diallo in their first meeting in 4 sets. So 4 US men are into the 4th round of this year's US Open. Tommy Paul joining Taylor Fritz, Francis Tiafoe, and perhaps slightly the surprise of the tournament so far, Brandon Nakashima. And so on an overcast day, let's have a look at the final match summary.
Well, the unforced errors jump at you with some power. The 77 unforced errors from Diallo in the end. So the numbers don't look great, but the level was better, and the excitement and the drama was better than maybe these numbers make it look.
Certainly was an awful lot of drama, a lot of edge of your seat stuff. 14 breaks between them. So it will be Jannik Sinner versus Tommy Paul. And I can tell you that Sinner, the Italian, the world #1, the Australian Open champion, leads the head-to-head 2-1. They most recently met last year in Canada at the Masters, and it was 4-4 for Sinner. I'm still awaiting those at the bottom of this little portion.
Sinner has become the best player in the world. He's #1 seed, and there's this year, starting really with Canada last year, where Paul played him. That was when he really started to take over the game, and he's just going to be lapping the field in some ways in the ranking, because he didn't do that well here last year, and Alcaraz and Djokovic did. So the gap is getting even larger.
Carlitos Alcaraz, of course, out, as is Novak Djokovic, the defending champion. So Sinner, the big favourite. Can Tommy Paul upset the Italian? I'm Jimmy Arias. My name's Candy Reid. Thanks so much for your company. We'll see you again soon.
From Canada, make some noise for Gabriel Diallo. And from the United States, Tommy Paul.
6 games to 3. Game on first set. 4, 6 games to 1. Game on first set. 4, 6 games to 1. Diallo. One ball. New balls, please. Second match ball. 3 sets to 1. 6-7, 6-3, 6-1, 7-6.